Good evening, fellow Russian speaker Toastmasters. My first day as a member today here. And also, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and most welcome guest. My speech today is about the epidemic in the United States. It's a prison epidemic. And I'll explain why. When you think, most people think of the United States as a country that is a leader in many, many ways, right? So we're the first ones to go to the moon, internet invention, forefront of different other things. Unfortunately, the United States also leads the world in the number of prison population in the world. In fact, the population of the United States is only 5%, but the population of prison in the of prisoners in America is 25%. So in my speech, I want to talk about some statistics here. I want to talk about what's causing this. Some of the implications of someone actually having been to prison or been incarcerated, and what I think can be done about this and what the government thinks can be done about this. It would not be prudent to not give you statistics, which I have it here in my notes because I don't trust my memory on Monday. So I'm going to look into my notes here. So in America, 1 person in 100 is in jail, in prison, incarcerated, and that number just means jails, right? There's also facilities for immigration detention, there's facilities for martial detention, which are not part of the statistics here. So to establish a ballpark comparison to other countries, I will speak in terms of per capita. So in that sense, we would compare how many people are in prison in different countries for 100,000 people. In America, 1,000 people, 1,000 people are in jail for every 100,000 people. In comparison, in England, that rate is 151. In Germany is 88. And Japan is 63. And the median among other countries is about 125. So you could argue that about, per capita terms, there's about 6 times as many people are in prison in America than the rest of the world. And before I even get further into statistics, just imagine yourself being incarcerated by the government, because all the statistics, it's just numbers and what you can do about this, but no one really says what it means to be in prison. And imagine you're in a solitary confinement or you're in prison. It's a horrible thing to be. So furthermore, over 65 million people, 25% of the population in America, have been in prison or have a criminal record. And it gets really bad for the African American population, which makes up about 40% of prison population, where there's only 13% of the population. And there have been numerous studies conducted that someone who's African American in America is much more likely to go to prison for an exact same crime committed. And why this is happening? This is happening because there are over 4,500 federal laws on books, and these laws are difficult to interpret, so the judges have a broad interpretation of these laws, and they can interpret them different ways. But the most important reason for having that many people in prison is the war on drugs, which had started in 1980. So in the 1980s, America had taken a very strong stance on drugs and wanted to eliminate the drugs. But the number of prisoners since 1980 to today has quadrupled, so it's 4 times as much now. And decision had been made back then to privatize the prisons. So the prison is just like a private institution. Because of that, for corporations that actually own the prison, it makes sense for them when there's more people in jail. So California in the past 23 years has built roughly 1 jail every year at a cost of $100 million, and has only built 1 public school in a 23-year period. The corporations that have jails, they lobby, they pay millions of dollars to the Senate and the lobbying efforts in order to make the laws more tough. So if, for example, for possession of, make up a number, 10 grams of marijuana, the law would be 1 year. They petition to the politicians to make it 3 years and to make it mandatory sentence. So that had evolved in a huge business in the United States, such that that many people are in jail. As a result of this, some states spend as much as 25% of their state budget for prison. That's way more than they spend on healthcare or education. to refresh my memory and refer to notes one more time. Yeah, so I want to talk about the implications of this really, because someone who has been in prison, it's considered an act of being kind of rehabilitated, but it's not. If a person has been in prison, you cannot get any decent job. Some people complain that they cannot even get lowest paying jobs because of this. So effectively, you are jarred for life. So I'm not just talking about those juveniles who are in prison. Actually, America is the only country who will imprison juveniles for life in prison without a possibility of parole at the time when they were minors. How can we solve this? I think we need to deprivatize the prisons, just like the post office is a government agency, Social Security and pension. We cannot let continued corporations to drive this, to make profits from people. And I also think that people need to come up with different measures to combat this big situation in America, because it's out of hands and out of control. So with that, I want to finish my speech, but in the meantime, the problems still exist. If you plan traveling in the United States, please check the laws and don't get in jail. Thank you.